Call the meeting to order. Roll call. Here.
Here. Here.
Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? All right, seeing none, moving forward. Hopefully your staff is going to be having a little bit of a break over the busy holiday season, so I know you've got a couple more coming up, but thanks for the push.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I entertain a motion for the approval of minutes for November.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. On to the monthly activity and finance report. Cody, Stephanie?
Madam Chair, directors of the board, thank you. Yes, the team is getting a well-deserved and earned break. We did a 1,000-person lunch today for Simplot, and we've got another 800 on Saturday for breakfast as our final event before we kind of go into a little bit of dark time. Pick right up after the first of the year, so not a lot of dark time, but a little bit is a lot for our team considering the few months that we've been running nonstop. So it has been an exciting year, and I'm excited to present some final year-end numbers along with the November financials and numbers. Few different new slides this year. I've got a different look to the slides, and then I'll have a little bit more data coming because obviously we're finishing off reporting on this fiscal year, this last fiscal year. But next month I have some new kind of data and KPIs that I'll start reporting on. But for this month I kept it somewhat similar, added in a few different slides, but it does have a new look for the year. So just to kind of give the board that. Obviously kind of November highlights similar to what I've had in the past. On the top left there we've got the Bishop Kelly Gala. Wogistics Committee, it was a small group this year, so we only did one house because we had a big event in-house on the Saturday that we did that. So a group of us went out and raked up a yard for Rake Up Boise and joined in on some community activity. So there's a group of us in that photo there, and then the 2024 ISBA annual convention, as we had several different large conventions in November that I think really, and you'll get a chance to see that, impacted the financials from that side. Make sure I'm moving along here. Here we go. All right, so on the event side, annual event report. Oh, I think I jumped ahead too many. Yep, I did jump one too many. The monthly events report. Total number of events in November for 2024 was 17, just showing kind of a breakdown of those events and which type that we had. We had a lot of banquets, as you can imagine, as we were in the middle of banquet season. 9 total banquets, 2 consumer and public, and then 2 conventions, 2 meetings, and 1 trade show. It's actually 3 conventions because Allie's got 3 listed down here, and I had her update the slide, so I need to make sure that that number is correct. But the conventions in November really made up for about half of the revenue of November, which is awesome to see that from, even though we had a lot of banquets. That just really shows you that the conventions that the sales team is working on bringing in, and I'll get to this a little bit later, but are becoming great value type of events for us on top of the economic impact, on top of the heads and beds. They're actually generating quite a bit of revenue as well for the center. So it's been a win-win on that side for the district and the center. Just make a note throughout this whole entire report, Festival of Trees is going to hit the FY 2025 reporting. So I've got that highlighted a few times in the slides as we go along. It's just important to pay attention to because you're going to see some variances that will, from attendance and revenues, that should cause some questions. But then you think about Festival of Trees reporting and that should answer that question. So I'll get to that as I get into there. This is more of an annual, just end of year of where we're at, what we're looking at for this year. Looking ahead, but obviously in 2022 we did 253 events. In those mixes you can see on the different graphs there, and really we just tend to do the 3 largest sectors that we do are obviously the banquets, conventions, and then the meetings are our top 3 on those events. The last 2 years we've had about 105 banquets, and then the conventions have stayed about 74, 72. This upcoming year, as I presented to the board during the budget season, we're seeing a little downturn in the conventions. We're sitting at about 57. I know of 58 because we picked up one more that I get to share with the team and the board as well. So those are picking up, but again, we are seeing that down, but what's happening is that allows us a little bit more opportunity for more meetings and banquets on that side. So that's what we focused on looking ahead into 2024, but we finished the as we look ahead into 25, FY24 finished with 262 events. Total daily attendance. This is the slide here that you're going to notice. November's 2024 attendance was down at 11,956. Obviously, that's significantly down because a large portion of that attendance that happens in November is the Festival of Trees. So next month, you're going to see that December number at the top there shoot up and be a big, big line. And that's because Festival of Trees is attendance. So that usually makes up a significant portion of our attendance, and about 30,000 people can end up coming in for a weekend of a week of Festival of Trees. So Guest satisfaction, we're finishing the year really strong. We've had 1.3 all year rating on our overall guest experience at Boise Center. Everything else is coming in at a 4 and a 5, total 102 responses at a 4.92. We'll still see some trickle in from the end of the year. They tend to come in even up to a month late sometimes on some of the events of when we send these to clients, but we're continue about a 30 to 35% response rate from our clients on that. Market strategy, a couple different things. Boise Center press release, fiscal year end highlights. Idaho Business Review released an article on 12/16 highlighting some of the economic impact that we've had. I want to recognize Mary Michael, who I believe is in the room here. She's really helped put out a press release to the local media highlighting more for the average citizen in Boise or within the district, kind of what the district has done at a level that hopefully they can understand, doesn't get into the detail that industry specific terms, that kind of stuff. So we kept it high level, really trying to translate what the value of Boise Center brings to the district and the community here. So that's a great article. We hope that there's some more to come. There has been some interest from others, other media outlets to possibly write an article on this, but I think the timing with holidays and everything else, we're trying to look at potentially next year for a couple people that are interested in some of that data and writing about it. Cliff is working on a new branding guide, and what that is an opportunity for our clients and event planners to look for spaces of where they can put their branding, and that could be stickies or clings on the windows or stickies on escalators, areas that have pillars for sponsorship wraps. And we're putting together basically a guide that would show them where it's approved and what they need to do if they want to cover those spaces, what kind of material that would need to be stuck on the back of those stickies to make sure that they don't have damage to the building and we have to charge for repairs or maintenance that's related to that. A couple notes here from Ali. The NostalgiaCon confirmed for Memorial Day weekend of 2025, estimated 450 room nights. Sales team has traveled to Washington, D.C. for Connect D.C., and then Ali's in Seattle for sales calls and PCMA Northwest chapter event. Partnering with HPN Global on Treefort Music Fest FAM of 2025. So this year's FAM lineup was released. I think it's a pretty good list of bands. I'm a band guy myself, so excited about the 2025 Treefort FAM that's going to be here. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for us to highlight what's really cool about Boise at that time of the year within spring.
Can I ask what NostalgiaCon is?
Yes, and I don't know if I have a direct answer other than I would assume I know a little bit about it, but basically it's different decades and different things from kind of prior decades. So nostalgia stuff. We also did, and this one's not on here, it was just released, so that way I can share it with the public at this point in time, but we were waiting. We actually did pick up Momentus, which is our software system that we use for all of our data capturing. We are going to be bringing their conference here. It's about 250 people total in 2025, and we won that bid as well, and that was just announced. That's going to be a really awesome opportunity for our staff. I know Paneet, we sent him to that conference this year. So having it in Boise allows us an opportunity to have more people, more of our staff attend, get some learning opportunities, and also it's our counterparts across the industry will be attending that event. So we get to invite them into Boise and show them what we do here at Boise Center. So very, very excited about that win from the sales side. This is news that was just released at the very end of November, and as well as this is Mary Michael's efforts that helped us get us across the finish line. But really, both Boise Center and Visit Boise have been named Platinum Choice Award winners by readers of Smart Meeting magazine. So this is something that we participate in a lot of activities with Smart Meetings. We've hosted we're trying to host one of their events, but it's an industry-related publication that gives us a chance to be recognized within the industry. So congratulations to Visit Boise, and then nice job by Boise Center, and thank you, Mary Michael, for your efforts on that. So sales goals and pacing, similar slides as what I've presented in the past. On that far left side, you have your future booked economic impact. As you can look at, that small little teal color is the current month and what they've worked on going forward. And then as you get into year-to-date prior at 17 million on future booked economic impact, and this is the same looking ahead at 12 months in time. And where they were at year-to-date goal, year-to-date's the orange, and then that goal just shy of it for this year for future booked economic impact is where they're at currently at this point in time. Future booked revenue, similar story there, just barely slightly pacing behind, but ahead from the year-to-date prior, but from the goal just, actually that one was the one that they did meet that goal and exceeded that goal. So again, a little mixed bag on those different goals, and then future booked room nights, the current month sitting at 800, And then year-to-date total sitting at that 31,000 and just shy of that goal. So again, this is where we continue to see a little bit of pressure from making sure that the number of contracts within conventions getting here, we're continuing to address that from several different avenues. A lot of the information came out of the customer advisory board of how we might be able to solve some of that. So we are working on some of that proactively as well. Some operational updates, a couple different things going on. We posted an RFP, so Julie has helped us with that for construction management services. What this is for our carpet replacement that we do on a kind of 5 to 7 year basis when we go through replacing carpet. Up in East, we did it last year. Right now, the reason that we're not up in the 200 boardroom is because the carpet has been removed. Currently, they're doing wall covering and carpet up in that area. And this construction management service RFP that we've worked with Mike's team on is really going to allow us to go out to a 5-year agreement, so we don't have to go post an RFP every single year, because we can enter into a 5-year agreement and keep going along from that perspective. So,
I was gonna say it's RFQ.
oh, sorry, RFQ. Okay.
There you go. Different than RFP, where we're hoping the CN can continue to do the RFPs for us and help guide us through it. It's a long time that we're spending on these projects, especially west.
That's currently active on the district website if you go under RFP, RFQ section. So, thank you.
And we're looking for a general contractor, or who is the one that we're
We're looking for a
putting?
CM.
A CM.
A CM, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, so it's floor qualifications, so there's a cover letter, things like that, making sure they can, so a little bit different than where we even do the RFP.
And then new carpet and paint, 200 level boardroom, obviously, as I just spoke about. The concourse is part of that as well. And then the offices is currently underway. We're hoping to have that finished up soon after the new year as possible, because we have some big events that use that concourse to get back and forth between. So we're really trying to stay proactive on making sure that's going to be available, and if not, coming up with plan B in case there's something that comes up in our way from an installation standpoint. And then, as I showed that photo at the beginning, Boise Center participated in Rake Up Boise. From the food and beverage side, just wanted a quick highlight here. The one that's on that screen on the right side there is the 6th straight year with 0 infractions from Central District Health Inspections. That's just something that speaks about the quality of our food and beverage and culinary team, the way that we keep our facility. I think you guys see as well and hear it as well from guests. Quality of facility is very, very important to us. But having 0 infractions is pretty unheard of in Central District Health. When they walk in here, they're always so impressed by how we keep our kitchen, how we keep our walk-ins, keeping things labeled and dated appropriately. So that's what leads to that 0 infractions and should give the board confidence as we continue to operate that food and beverage department. Front and Center, which is our Boise Center's in-house food and beverage, came in at a total of $7.4 million of our revenue came from the food and beverage side this year. So a good portion of our total revenue does come from that food and beverage side. And they finished the year with a 34% gross profit margin as a department. So they're operating efficiently and operating really well. So I want to recognize that entire team, Chef, Chris, everybody from that team has done an outstanding job this year and really representing Boise Center well. Now I get into the financials. So as you can see, there's the line that you guys look at each month as it gets updated, that orange line at the top. November revenues came in just shy of $1 million, so $962,000. That's lower than the 2 previous years, but that does not include Festival of Trees, which is a few $100,000 in revenue. So when you take that into account, it was a record November, just minusing out that festival, and we did do a lot of the festival at the very end of November. Fiscal year end, we're just shy of 12 million. We're sitting at about 60,000, I think it was short, 80,000, I think it was short of that $12 million number. So it's an 1199 number is what it comes down to. So we're very proud of that. That's an all-time annual record revenue for Boise Center. And then now knowing that December is also going to be kicking off with probably a record revenue, knowing that Festival of Trees is going to hit that month financially. Again, just this highlights the fiscal year-end revenues and shows where we've been in the last few years. So going back to 2022, we had 8.9 million in total revenues. 2023, we were at 11 million. The budget for this year was 10.7, and we came in about 1.2 million over budget. Next year, as you guys saw from the budget presentation I gave, we're seeing a little leveling off, and I came in at a 10.89 budgeted in revenues for the fiscal year of 2025. Gross profit margin. The last 3 months really moved the needle on this one in particular because we had some outstanding, like I said, the convention revenue was, I mean, for what we give on discounts and subsidies to bring groups here in particular for those types of things, we had a very good convention year from a revenue standpoint on top of economic impact, and that really did help that number get up to the 24%. So we were sitting at a 24.1 at the end of the year. Goal was 15%. I worked with the board chair, Kristen, and we set a 20% revenue or gross profit margin goal for next year. So I think that's a realistic goal. If you kind of look at 22 and 23, we were right into that number. And again, I think 24 is a banner year. I'd love to hit that number again, and it will be a goal for the team. But realistically, I think 20% is a good number for us to try to aim for. Economic impact, again, record across the board for the district in the center. So this is a record year at $50.8 million in total economic impact for fiscal year 2024. November alone was 3.9, but it's that month before in October that I told you guys about that really moved the needle at $7 million. That's a record month for us in our history. We're up from 42.4 million, and that's using the new calculated number. So that's the adjusted number with Destinations International capturing all local attendance at 100%, as I've spoke to the board in the past about. So that 42 is that number. It would have been lower than that if we didn't go back and recalculate off of the new formula. But that new formula, we still outperformed just over 8 million more in economic impact from prior year. So very, very happy with those numbers on the economic impact side, and something that you guys can be proud of, share with the community as they're asking what we do. 50 million is an easy number to remember. It's close to 51, but 50 is a nice, easy number to remember.
Is there a way you can wrap in the economic impact of the aquatic center too?
We can as a district. I've been reporting this as a Boise Center economic impact, but I could do that next month to show what their totals are mixed as a district total and start reporting on that information there. So yes, let me make a note on that. Okay. Just a few district updates here across the board. I'll go briefly into the View Glass update, but we have obviously an active lawsuit going with them on our behalf. Mike's team has been representing us well for that. And as of December 13th, we filed an application for entry of default, as that's the next step. Their time to appear and answer the complaint has come and gone at this point in time. So that's where we're at in the stage. The legal team is doing a couple other things simultaneously at the same time to make sure whether name changes or other things behind the scenes were done, that those won't slow us down as we get to the next steps. But ultimately, this goes to the judge to determine. Sometimes a trial ends up happening, sometimes without a jury. But more to come next month on this. But right now, we did have the time came and gone, so the application for entry of default was submitted at this point in time. And that's where we stand today. Just a couple things that I've been working on. I've met with the city and CCDC, or been in contact with CCDC, and I've met with a few members from the city at this point in time about working to bring that tri-agency group back. And for new board members or board members that are not familiar with this, is CCDC, Capital City Development Corporation, Boise Center, or the district representing somebody from Boise Center, and the city of Boise all getting together and having quarterly meetings. It could be more frequent than that, to determine what opportunities might exist as we continue to look at potential future projects or opportunities that we go forward with. The last time, and going through old notes that happened from these meetings, they kind of all came, this is before Boise Center East expanded. They looked at a potential performing arts venue option. They looked at an expansion on the current convention center. A baseball stadium was talked about, and it quickly became apparent to this group that a convention center expansion would have been probably number one on the list to go with, and that's where they ended up start going. That group continued to talk all the way through some of the baseball stadium conversations even after East was happening at that point in time, and then it kind of dissolved during COVID at that point in time and hasn't been brought back. Timing seems to be the right time to have those conversations again and bring those people back to the table, just to make sure that we're not overlooking or missing opportunities where we could collaboratively work together for overall good for all three organizations. Working.
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Would that be you and the ED of the CCDC, and then I'm assuming the Economic Development Director of the city?
Yeah, Doug Woodruff is who they've kind of thrown on. He's not the executive director of CCDC, but he's a key partner and key leadership individual from their organization. So I think that was one of the names that were thrown out potentially on the emails that I was exchanging with their executive director. So.
Madam Chair, have we thought any, I've asked for explanation of who all these players are that are concerned about Boise development. I imagine a big chart with circles, Teams Group and CCDC and Boise Development and Visit Boise and all of that.
I can get that slide put together to a degree, and I'm not sure if who would speak to that, but I know you've kind of mentioned you're the kind of the alphabet soup of acronyms is what you're speaking about, CCDC and DBA and all of those. So I can put a slide together for next month that'll explain kind of what they do. And then if you guys have questions, I'd be happy to get into more in depth about what each organization does.
I'm most interested in overlap.
Okay.
If they think, if Visit Boise thinks we're doing something, that DBA thinks we're doing something else, and the skating rink people think we're doing something else.
Okay. Yeah, there is a lot of opportunity for overlap. We work with the city, obviously, on the plaza stuff, and that used to be CCDC is where that relationship started. Before they had that urban renewal agency within the downtown core, and it captured the plaza. That's now moved to Boise, so I can get into that for sure. I can spend some time, make sure we get into that. Hard bid for aquatics, post, oh,
Check, can I just check too? Jody, are you thinking of both governmental and sort of, you know, quasi-governmental or not truly
Yeah.
governmental entities
Yeah.
as well? So the whole gamut, right? Okay.
okay. There's a lot of them.
All those people who have hopes for development of Boise. And oftentimes I read about them in the paper, I don't even know who they are, and they oftentimes mention district money.
Yes.
So I call Chase, and he explains it.
There is a lot, and I think we've been doing a good job, at least this last year, trying to get those, and Chase included, meeting with those individuals so that they're talking to us rather than talking about us, but that is happen, and we continue to see that, so. Hard bid for aquatic center parking lot. I'm asking, and I talked to Kristen and Mike about this. Obviously, we've got our RFQ out for the other bid. I would like to do this in early January so we don't have multiple RFQs and RFPs at the same time. We are gonna have to have a couple at the same time already in the 1st of January, and one of those would be the hard bid for the aquatics parking lot. But knowing that one of them is both kind of asking for similar things, I separated the hard bid for the aquatics and the bid for the construction. The reason that we put the center construction ahead is the amount of work that needs to be done in 2025, December of this upcoming year, will be the ballroom project. So it's the ballroom, the main lobby of Boise Center West, which is our largest space. And that's important that we get out in front of that so we can kind of start getting bids and construction manager working on the schedule for that so we can reduce the impact of number of events that we might have to cancel or delay because of that construction happening in the big ballroom. So a little bit of strategy to that. District board election candidate filing deadline is coming up in March, so I'll be reaching out to the different board members. Obviously, we've got 2 with Jim and Jody going up for election, so that candidate filing deadline is March. So just as you know, just keep aware of more details on the specifics of that, but I've been in contact with the elections office at this point, trying to get our part done from the district side to make sure our information's available and ready to go to be on the ballot, but they will need to know who the candidates are, and that filing deadline is in March. Questions on any of that?
Election in May.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, with the election in May, right?
The election's in May,
Filing.
correct, yes.
What do we need to do?
There's
Do I
forms.
need to try to find 25 friends to sign an invitation
That was actually the question I'm waiting to get
Will they take the-
confirmed, because you guys all have your
on file?
I have the election forms on file from the first time. I did ask that question. I'm waiting for an answer back, which is, are you guys needing to go through that whole rigmarole once you've already been qualified as a candidate and people that verified your address? I think you had to have 5 people sign that they know who you were and that you live where you say you live. All of that, I don't know yet if that needs to be redone for people that are rerunning for
It
election.
does.
I will get. It does?
It would, right? I mean, you have to file, and it has to be like, I think it's less than 10 people. It's not cumbersome,
Yes, it's not covered. I think it was 5 on each of the elections on the past 5 names
Yeah.
that had to be on there.
but you have to file like you're a new candidate.
I just wasn't sure if they needed those 5 names because they've already been verified. If they've stayed in the same address, it seems like that might be redundant, but yeah. And knowing the
all over
government,
again.
sometimes there's
Yep.
redundancy for a reason, so I'm going to say yes
I
for
mean,
now.
unless anything's changed in the past year and a half, but
Yep.
otherwise.
And who makes that determination?
Is it Ada County Elections?
Yes, the County Elections Office. So I will be there in May at the end to watch the count happen. Pat's kind of given me the rundown of how this has gone in the years past. So I will stay there until the end of close of the election. They'll tally up the votes, and then hopefully, usually they'll find out that evening. Sometimes they've had to go home, and then they find out the next day. But for the most part, that evening, they're usually able to determine how the election turned out. So,
Thank you.
Just want to remind that if the board positions only have one person, one candidate running, then there's not a need for the actual election, so then it's a different circumstance.
yes, valid point. So if there is not a contested to that seat, then there wouldn't need to be an election, and you'd win by default. I know we've had a few board members that have had that happen as well. So at this point, I've had a few people interested at a very high level about the board, but nothing that I know of anybody's come out forward saying that they would like to run as well. So at this point in time, I know I have indications from the two of you, but let's confirm that as we get closer into early next year. So. I'll just kind of highlight this. It's not on this list, but I think it kind of fits into the same from election side of things. If you saw, there was a recent news article about the Meridian Auditorium District. They are actually going for their election instead of in May, they're going in November. So they have their signatures, they'd like to go, but there's just a reason why I think that they're wanting to move it to the November election. I don't know exactly what their strategy is to that, but they've let me know, and it came out in the paper from Idaho Press, that they're going to be putting that on the November ballot. So it won't be on May at the same time that our board election is up at that point in time. And then feasibility study, we RFP to post in early January. We've gotten our final pieces on that. I actually met with Mike earlier this week, and Pine Street Group's kind of helping me and Chase on that, getting that across the finish line there. I feel like we've got a really good strategy going into that to make sure that we're capturing, and this is almost a three kind of headed monster of a feasibility study, and it's asking for data on an expansion of the current convention center, data on a sister facility that could be additional convention space or multi-purpose, could be sports, and then also a multi-purpose sports convention space, kind of those three different options, and what would be the best for the district going forward based on current market, current hotels, all of that, and then also the future of what they see Boise growing into and where that best avenue for us to kind of look at expansion opportunities to go down. So more to come.
So are they just going to look at those three, or are they going to just open it up also to see if there's anything else that bubbles up?
There will be in that data, if anything else. We've got it it's narrowed enough that we want to get the data that we want, but it's also got some avenues to explore that if they find something interesting, to please give us those findings as well about if it's another type of facility or something similar to that would fall within the district's purview. They could identify that as well. I'm going to get that done. So yeah, that'll be posted in early January. So any questions on the district updates? Okay. I've got 3 board members, so I'm going to go ahead and take that at this point in time. I have a conflict, and I apologize on this for the January board meeting date, but I'm looking to change that to Tuesday, January 21st. I do know we have a quorum at this point in time. That was originally scheduled for Thursday, January 23rd. I will be in actually Dallas, Texas, or going to Dallas, Texas for a IAVM board meeting as Region 4 director on that time. And so apologize for that last minute shift in that one, but everything else we were able to lock in. That one new date here we're trying to determine, and I don't believe it will be in 200, but this one change, everything else throughout the entire year will all be in room 200. That's the one date that we're trying to confirm if it will be, and I'll let the board know as soon as possible on where that location will be. I think we're thinking 410 is where I'm anticipating at this point in time. Lodging room revenues, I didn't put too much data here I can highlight, and you guys can go over and I can show you kind of where we came in at, but it's over 15 million for November. But really, when I look at this, what jumps out to me is some of those purple lines that in 2022, looking at December, looking at March being really high from the lodging room revenues. Obviously, each year over year, the last fall, if you look at all the way from pretty much August forward, there's been a stair step up each year in those lodging room revenues. But some of those interesting ones are just some of the stuff that we've been able to bring in as far as conventions or other activities, Far West soccer, things like that, that move that needle as well. So if you start seeing some variances outside of that, that tends to be what causes some of those jumps within 22 or 23 that were higher than 24. But for the most part, 24 continues to be pacing well ahead on the lodging room revenues as any other prior year, minus a few different anomalies. And then it correlates very much so with room demand, but it's interesting as I like to look at data, and again, those purple lines jumping out to me in 2022, early in December, and then you can go back and kind of look at where they were. What I've correlated between these two slides as I look at hoteliers are smart. They know when they're starting to get that demand up, they adjust their rates and then they come in, but it's usually a lag a little bit behind of when they see that there's a high demand, then they start to come in with a higher rate until that demand drops and then they adjust. So it's usually about a lag, a month or two behind from that data. And then lodging occupancy at ADR, these landed almost on top of each other from the prior year. So as you're looking at this top line, this is the ADR, and as you can see, these two, let me put this over here. So the fiscal year 23, the average daily rate was 135.5, and the fiscal year 2024, 135.40, so just down 10 cents as a whole within that month of November. So they came back to pretty much normal once November hit, and then same thing with occupancy percentages. They were actually up a little bit. Now, again, what I spoke about is those adjusted things happen from the hotels. You're going to see that the occupancy was a little higher, so I think next year you're going to see a rate increase in that same month. Tends to be what ends up happening. As I finalized the data, and I was actually looking at this as I was putting this report together, so they're finishing the year very close, but next month I'll have the final year-end data because they have a lot of corrections that come in through that last month. For data that reports that get submitted late or a little bit after the report comes out, and then the next month's report captures that data. So I'm going to have this updated with where my forecast was, and I put that forecast in there at the very beginning of last year, and it's looking almost like it's going to fall right on top of those numbers. So kind of fun for me to look at from a data and analytics standpoint of what I'm able to do, and kind of just taking a look at the data and then estimating where I think they would end for 24, and it's looking like it's going to hit very much right inside those numbers.
So the additional inventory that came on with those additional hotels didn't really move the ADR?
We basically absorbed it and kept rates going right in the same direction as it was before that. That's kind of been my statement as we've had other media inquiries about different hotel growth recently this last year, is Boise continues to grow, so the new hotels are just pacing with that growth. It's not kind of setting us up for future of what the needs are for convention needs. It's really just the growth, and you've got a lot going on Micron as well that's helping drive some of that. But those numbers are impressive. The next big hotel that will come on will be that AC Element, and that's going to be about 277 rooms, but that won't be until 2026 at this point in time.
And what's the rough deficit of hotel rooms we have in respect to?
Depending on the report, and that's some older data that I saw, but back in the day I saw 800 to 1,000 rooms short, and that was some older data. Now I know that we've eaten away at some of that with new growth or new hotel rooms, but Boise hasn't stopped growing either, so I believe most of the hotel growth is really just paced with the growth of Boise and hasn't caught up to that deficit that we were sitting at prior.
Okay, thank you.
Again, some of the the feasibility study will kind of point to that data as well and give us some updated information on how many hotel rooms we may be short within the district to do some of the things that we want to do.
So last month, there was some issue or some question about the tax revenue being off, and
Yep.
you were going to reach out to them? What was the?
We're still in the works with that. But
Okay.
yes, we had a discussion, but as Cody mentioned, there is some of that year-end numbers that get vetted, and, the information changes, so, yeah.
What I did notice, though, on the new report is it didn't change drastically as much, so I still do have a question about when ADRs were that high and occupancy was that high, why did that number come in a little bit lower? Because they did adjust a little bit, but it wasn't as much as I thought it would be at this point in time, so.
Okay.
And that's from what I've understood from their perspective, similar to us. It's like closing out as you get an invoice come in late or something like that happens. They're getting reporting late a little bit from some of those hotels. So those numbers will show up on the next month's report and get captured from the prior month of when they released it. Any other questions on the ED report from the board? Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate that. And I'll turn it over to Stephanie.
Okay. Well, my report for the district came in a little bit better than Cody's did with the way that the Boise Center finished. So we're gonna split the difference and celebrate a $12 million year. And I think that speaks volumes, so. The district came in just shy of 13 million. And then as you see, the aquatics 450, which is their lease payment, so.
I believe the difference in that is gross and net.
I do, I agree, and depending on which report or how you filter it, so yeah. And we will continue to vet those, as I said, with regards to the way the year end closes out and as we prep for audit going into January. So, and we'll come back and report on that for you. Hotel tax collections. November's hotel tax collections, 1.19 million. Last month's was 1.15. As I said, we've got in the works with auditing that because it was a little bit lower than what we were anticipating, and so again, we'll bring that back to you. But the total for 2024 hotel tax collections, $11.46 million. The transfers, capital transfers, were about $16,000 under budget for 2024. There was about an $800,000 carryover from 2023. Our total 2024 capital projects were 1.84. So with that, you've got about a $16,000 under budget, so.
I'd highlight that one too, just real quick to the board. This is the one that I spoke about where we were going to be carrying forward some projects into this fiscal year from last year. So we thought we might be up to 300,000 over budget in the capital side of things. So I gave that kind of heads up to the board. We were able to manage through projects and looking at, as we kind of have a 25-year capital plan, things come up. If they don't need to be done, we don't just go spend the money. So I want the board to know we're really fiscally managing that capital fund, and we're not just spending the money just because we have it approved or I've told the board, hey, we could go, and our team knew they could go up another 300,000 on that. But we really were working to the budget number and trying to identify what needed to be done, what could wait. And so I'm proud of the team and their efforts from that perspective as well. So.
Right. And with that, there is about a little over $20,000 in a project that is being carried over from the 24 to 25. That's it, not a ton. So, operating transfers finished the years about more than $600,000 under budget. So we had the year at $4,059,979. We had budgeted for 4.6. So those transfers continue to decrease as the Boise Center operates at full capacity and those revenues increase. Bond payment stays the same, 1.6.
I think we've only got 12 years left, I believe, of bond payments. So.
It is, yeah, it is. I just looked at that. This is the Clearwater balance sheet. It comes directly off their dashboard. The number that the board is always interested in is the monthly income, and that was $55,616. They also will be joining us in January to give you guys a quarterly update. So, this is district cash position. We are just shy of 30.5 million. Restricted funds, again, 250,000. We keep that in there. The stabilization fund is set for $6 million. I'll be reevaluating that as I continue to analyze year-end numbers and any additional debt or any additional projects that you guys are wanting to take on, if the $6 million is going to be enough or if we need to increase that. So I'll come back with a recommendation.
What are the main drivers of the variance, the 6 million, 6.6?
I'm sorry, say again?
The main drivers of the variance, the budget?
That's gonna come from income based upon the Clearwater, like your Clearwater statements, your assets, any of those, so.
And tax revenues as well.
Tax revenues, yeah.
So tax revenues came in higher than budget as well. So, yeah.
All right, any other questions?
Any questions? All right. Thank you. With that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the monthly and financial report.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Next on the agenda is executive session. Okay, Anna, do you need to know?
Chase?
Chase has the form. Okay, so you're good?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next. We,
44.
at what is it, 2:44? I left my phone, so I don't have it. So the executive session at 2:44.
340.
3:44. Oh, God, that would have been a fast meeting.
Wishful thinking.
Time work.
Okay, next item on the agenda is item E, Executive Director Compensation for Cody. After having done his performance evaluation, I would entertain motions for salary and bonus.
Madam Chair, I move that we provide Cody the executive director with a 4% increase to salary and a 3% performance bonus.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks for all your hard work, and look forward to working with you this upcoming year.
Happy holidays, and thank you guys for the support. It's been a fun one, so thank you.
Seeing no other business before the board, the meeting's adjourned.